Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News. Folks, buckle up, because this past week in America looked like somebody shook a magic 8-ball full of politicians, lobbyists, snowplows, and AI robots with daddy issues. And every time we asked, "Are we doing okay?" the magic 8-ball said, "Reply hazy, try whiskey." Segment 1. Tariffs, shutdowns, and the 108-minute telethon for presidential ego. So the president delivered the longest State of the Union in U.S. history. 108 minutes. I ain't watched a man talk that long since my cousin Earl tried to explain why the cops should let him keep fireworks after the shed incident. The president bragged about inflation dropping to 2.4%, which is adorable, because my grocery bill seems to be operating under hyperinflation from Jupiter. Then he rolled out the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which kills taxes on tips over time and Social Security income. That sounds great, but knowing how Congress works, the final version's going to include a clause about giving tax credits to billionaires who teach an alpaca to juggle. Meanwhile, DHS is still shut down, which is wild because the administration keeps bragging about record deportations while the people doing the deporting are unpaid. That's not border security. That's Uber with handcuffs. And then, cherry on top, Hillary and Bill Clinton got dragged into a House deposition about the Epstein files. I haven't seen two people that nervous since Earl tried to explain that the raccoon in his garage was part of a science experiment. This whole week looked like American politics got stuck in a blender labeled puree. Segment 2. Tech meltdowns, market panic, and AI learning how to overthrow its boss. NVIDIA had the biggest earnings flex in human history. $68 billion in one quarter. That's more money than my whole hometown has made since 1832. And Wall Street's response? Panic sell. It's like NVIDIA showed up with a report card covered in A+, and the market said, "You're grounded." The reason? Everybody's terrified the AI boom is unsustainable. Buddy, of course it's unsustainable. We're out here teaching robots to run entire companies, make TV ads, run your grandma's blender, and probably vote in the midterms if someone doesn't unplug them fast enough. The executive branch's tariff collapse didn't help. The Supreme Court straight up said, "Hey buddy, the law says no," which is the first time in years anybody in Washington has read a sentence all the way through. Now companies are suing to get billions in refunds. FedEx is basically standing outside the White House shaking a tip jar. And J.D. Vance, bless his heart, froze $259 million in Medicaid funds to Minnesota. Nothing says good governance like telling 1 million sick people to take a number. Minnesota's governor called it political retaliation. And honestly, it feels less like policy and more like a bachelorette party throwing drinks just to stay relevant. If this economy gets any more chaotic, Bitcoin's going to retire early and move to Florida to write a memoir. Segment 3. America versus Iran, Cuba versus Florida man, and every ally saying no thanks, cowboy. The U.S. sent 2 aircraft carriers, 150 aircraft, and half the Pentagon's gas bill to the Middle East to negotiate with Iran. When your diplomatic strategy looks like the world's angriest yard sale, you're not negotiating. You're posturing like a rooster who discovered creatine. Iran offered concessions, but the U.S. said no missiles, no enrichment, no snacks after 8 p.m. Basically everything except, "We'd like you to stop existing." And our allies, Saudi Arabia, UAE, even the UK, said, "Hey, we're going to sit this one out." When the British military won't join you, you know things have gotten spicy. These are people who once invaded half the planet out of boredom. Then Cuba had a shootout with a Florida-registered speedboat carrying rifles and Molotov cocktails. That is peak Florida energy. If you told me the boat captain was also wrestling an alligator, I'd believe you. Rubio announced a federal investigation, which is political speak for I'd like to be on TV at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, India sent 50,000 workers to Israel. Russia deployed banned cruise missiles. Settlers torched homes in the West Bank. And the world basically decided the theme for 2026 is global anxiety on roller skates. If this is peacetime, I don't want to see war. Segment 4. ICE agents, ALPR surveillance, and the Corvette full of freedom. The immigration dragnet expanded so wide that 77 million Americans now live where a traffic stop might turn into a deportation party. At this point, the Border Patrol's doing everything except checking library cards. ICE hiring is so rushed, they're skipping background checks. Bro, that's not enforcement. That's a casting call for the world's worst reality show. If your law enforcement motto becomes hire first, ask later, you're about 4 episodes away from federal agents who moonlight as mall Santas and part-time arsonists. Meanwhile, California's covered in automatic license plate readers. It's like the DMV had a baby with the NSA, and now it's everywhere, judging your parking skills. And the border seizure of the week? A Corvette stuffed with 44 handguns and 79 magazines. Nothing says subtle like smuggling an armory inside a sports car loud enough to wake the dead. I'm just imagining the smuggler thinking, the cops'll never suspect this bright yellow cannonball. If the Founding Fathers saw this, they'd go right back into the ground. Segment 5. The Surgeon General, microplastics, and the bomb cyclone sending us straight to the Ice Age. Dr. Casey Means had her Surgeon General hearing, and folks, it went about as well as me explaining to my mom why I accidentally deep-fried her humidifier. She blamed chronic disease on pesticides, processed food, and vibes. She wouldn't even commit to childhood vaccinations, which is like applying for firefighter and saying, well, water's kinda controversial. Then scientists announced a blood test predicting Alzheimer's years before symptoms. Fantastic. Now I'll have years to forget that I forgot what I forgot. And microplastics? They found them in 90% of prostate cancer tumors. My prostate doesn't need to be environmentally friendly. I'm not recycling it. Meanwhile, a bomb cyclone dumped 2 feet of snow on the Northeast because the weather decided to cosplay as a biblical punishment. Connecticut had to send plows to Rhode Island and Massachusetts like they were lending out sugar. The Red Cross lost 1,000 blood donations, which is awful. We barely have enough blood to begin with. America donates blood like it's a gym membership. Everyone supports it, but nobody shows up. FEMA sent emergency funds south to help states recover from ice storms. At this point, the weather's just throwing darts at the map. Segment 6. Artemis delayed, hockey glory, and Australia making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Artemis 2 got rolled back to the vehicle assembly building because a helium line malfunctioned. That's right. The entire future of humanity's return to the moon got delayed because NASA forgot to tighten something. Somewhere, a mechanic in Ohio just whispered, "I told y'all." The crewed mission won't launch till April, and honestly, that's fine. If I'm going to the moon, I want 0 surprises, not, "Houston, we forgot the helium and now the cabin sounds like a deflating party balloon." Meanwhile, the U.S. men's hockey team won their first gold since the Miracle on Ice in 1980. America went nuts. Then the women's team pulled the most iconic move of 2026 by refusing the president's State of the Union invite. That's not a boycott. That's a mic drop. They basically said, "We'll win for America, but we ain't clapping for that speech." And in Australia, their prime minister called Grace Tame difficult, which is politician code for "a woman told me the truth and my feelings got hurt." Buddy, Australians wrestle crocodiles for fun. You think they're scared of adjectives? This week has been so chaotic, I'm starting to think the moon mission isn't about science. It's about escaping Earth. In conclusion, America spent this week juggling tariffs, missiles, AI, Medicaid freezes, moon rockets, snowpocalypses, and hockey diplomacy like we're a nation powered entirely by duct tape and spite. If February is already this insane, by July we're going to need FEMA to issue emotional support animals to the whole country. Thanks for tuning in to Poorly Educated Today in the News, where the news is real, the jokes are questionable, and the whiskey is necessary.